Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me today for the first in a series of strategic chats with communications industry experts. I'm Travis Clater, I'm the owner of TC Strategic Communications, and our strategic chat series, tongue twister, brings two communications industry experts together for a short, informal, but very informative discussion on a specific topic that provides meaningful and actionable information for all of you. Now, today's topic is preparing for recovery following the coronavirus crisis that we're all dealing with, and specifically the role of owned media in that process and how it all integrates. But as we got closer to the interview and with everything going on, I felt like we should also just take a moment to address everything that's happening out there. So we're certainly going to do that as well. Now, our expert today is Missy Hurley, APR. Missy is the principal and co-founder of B2 Communications in Tampa Bay. Missy has built a reputation for innovation and results, as well as building and executing communications programs that focus on achieving her clients' goals. She's accredited in public relations and has experience in a wide variety of industries and has garnered results for companies like Sunstar Paramedics, SPCA Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg Free Clinic, Fisher Phillips LLP, Marlowe's Tavern, Tampa Bay Business for the Culture and Arts, Historic Ybor City, and so many others. So thank you so much, Missy, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about it.
So navigating the coronavirus crisis on its own has been challenging for communicators, to say the least. The way we communicate, the channels that we use, everything has evolved so quickly over the last 3 months or so. It's hard for anybody to keep up. So beyond that, before we get into the main topic, there's obviously a lot of other things going on and happening in the world right now, making it even more complicated for communicators and businesses to navigate how we communicate effectively. So, to start, what advice with everything going on can you give to businesses concerned about saying the wrong thing as we come out of this crisis, but continue to grapple with other things, including protests happening in our communities?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to say something, but beyond making a statement that might feel a little bit meaningless, really coming back to what action is your organization going to take and making sure that whatever you're saying really reflects that in an authentic, true way. Because if we've seen anything over the past few months is actually over the past few years, but even heightened in the past few months, is consumers are really looking for organizations that are making a positive impact, that are being authentic, being honest, and being specific about what they're going to do or change. So I think that's true for what's happening today. It's nice to say something, but you really want it to be meaningful. And that might mean some hard discussions. That might mean really taking a look at how you operate your business and the role you play in the community to say, what can I do differently? What can I do better? And those are really difficult conversations to have. They don't happen over the course of a week, but starting the conversation and knowing that over the next few months, it's possible to make a change and to take action and to continue to communicate what your organization is doing differently. I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen with businesses over the past few weeks, have been adjusting and reacting in a really great way.
That's a great point. And so many people in businesses, small businesses, large businesses, feel like they should be doing something. And I think everybody has a role to play. But what advice would you give to the businesses? Because look, you want to stick with your core values, your business values, right? So as they're looking for ways to make a difference and looking for ways to get out and be a part of the discussion, what's the best way to do that, but still ensure that it is authentic and it is sticking with your core values?
Yes, those values are really important. So it might be a good time to assess, are those the values that we represent today? And are we living those values? Because a lot of times what we see is companies create a set of values maybe 5 or 10 years ago, and through leadership evolutions and how they're operating a business, sometimes it's not truly who they are today. So taking a hard look at it and saying, are we living up to our promise to our customers, our promise to our employees, our promise to our community? And it might involve going back to those values and saying, is this who we are and is this who we want to be? And either having a recommitment to those values and finding ways to do that. Maybe it's, taking a look at hiring practices. Maybe it's looking at your community relations and diversifying where you're supporting. Maybe it's deciding to give employees time off so that they can go support the community in the way they feel best. It's going to look different for every client or every company based on who they are, but really doing that hard look at who am I today, who do I want to be, and how do I put my actions behind my words?
And I think that's the key, right? It's putting the actions behind the words. You can't just say it, you have to be it, right? So
Right.
beyond the messaging, beyond the public relations or the strategic communications efforts, there has to be operational change, right?
There has to be, and I think communicators are in a unique position to really be able to advocate for those changes. It's not our role to sit back and go, okay, company leaders, you figure this out. We should be pushing for those changes. We should be the people who are in tune with what's happening in our community and what is the tone and temperature of it, and how can we make a difference, and really bringing that back to the core leadership to say, this is authentic to who we are, or maybe this isn't, or this isn't enough and this isn't acceptable. And at times you might feel like you're rocking the boat, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. No, and to use that old cliche, this is absolutely a marathon, not a sprint, right? So we're in this for the long haul. We
Absolutely.
should be in this for the long haul. But that's what making meaningful change is, right? When you can change things in your house, that's making long-term meaningful change. So this is going to be a topic that we're going to be discussing more and more, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. But let's get back to the other topic real quick. So as it relates to COVID-19 and this crisis that we're all dealing with. Many parts of the country are well into their recovery phases. Here in Chicago, they're starting to move into recovery phases. Certainly in Tampa Bay, they're well into the recovery phases. And that means businesses have a real and very important opportunity to start their recovery process. So as businesses prepare, what would you recommend they focus on first from a communication standpoint?
For me, I always look at your own channels first. And I think I've seen some companies through this pandemic and through reopening and recovery process um, have realized the importance of owned media, meaning your website, the channels that you have full control over, in part because other channels like paid media or earned media and even shared media have been limited. People's attention spans on Facebook and social media have been fractured. The news cycle was dominated by pandemic numbers. So the organizations that already had an established communications channel of their own through their website or through email marketing, I've seen really come through this in a strong way. And that can continue as they're reopening because they're able to really tell customers, here's what's happening. Here's what we expect of you. Here's what we're doing. Always wanting to keep it tight and concise, but be really specific about what are the actions that you're taking as a business through this recovery process. What does it mean? What's going to change? What stays the same? But for us, really getting that owned house in order has been really important.
Yeah, and you said something. We were chatting the other day about, and I love the phrase that you use. It's direct to consumer, right? So we're not worried about other channels. Like we need to find ways to get directly to our audiences, right? Whoever your audience may be. Of course, you need to understand that as part of the strategic communications process, but being able to go directly to them. So for small businesses who may not have the resources, you say focus on your own channels, like your website. So what kind of content should they focus on first? How should they go about doing that?
I think having access to your own website, we've found that, sometimes that can be really challenging for small business owners. They relied on someone else to create it at some point, but don't always have direct access. And if they do have direct access, maybe don't know how to use it as much as they could, to be able to post quick updates, to be able to make changes to their operating hours, to be able to post helpful information. But being able to go direct to consumer, you're able to get a lot of information back from your customers. So if you're collecting email data, if you've got a Wi-Fi access point in your brick and mortar store, you can collect customer data that way. If you have special offers or ways that you can encourage people to share that data with you, you always have to be responsible with it. But wanting to make sure that you've got access to that information because it can actually help you market more effectively. You know more about your target audience. If you're brick and mortar, are they within a 5-mile radius? What is their average household income? What is the socioeconomic makeup? Because that can really inform the rest of your marketing strategy. And I think the error for a lot of communicators has been to really rely on the marketing or the digital team or the social media team, relinquish that to them, where for us, we look at it as an integrated strategy that you can be much more effective when you're looking at the whole view rather than just one slice of it and saying, okay, well, my responsibility is earned media or writing copy or one slice of it. you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not looking at the whole picture and really knowing as much as you can about your customers.
Yeah, and so it's not just writing a blog, right? That's not the kind of content. We're talking about a holistic and integrated content approach. So putting content on your own channels, on your website, let's say, about what you're doing as an organization, what you stand for as an organization, how you can help customers, right? It doesn't have to be a blog or a social post, but it all plays together, right?
Right. Yeah. Your website really, we look at it as your home base. Everything should lead back to your website, and your website should be the best source for information. So anything that goes on social should come back to your website. Anything that you're doing paid media wise comes back to your website. Any, any email information that you're sending out, there should be a link back to your website. People should know that that's where they should look for the best information, rather than looking on Facebook and guessing, well, when was the last time they updated this? And is this still, it's a post from 2 weeks ago. Is this still right? You never want to leave your customers guessing.
Yeah. So, well, and you bring up a good point. We've talked about the tools and we've talked a little bit about the strategy, but things have changed so much and they're continuing to evolve for both businesses and consumers. So what can businesses do to ensure that they are communicating effectively? The words they're using, the language, the ways that they're going about it. What can they do to ensure that their messages are getting across?
Yeah, so we started off the conversation talking a lot about authenticity. So this is a word, kind of a buzzword that we've been hearing over the past 2 years, but I think it's become really, really important over the past few months. That I think through this pandemic, people are really looking at, who do I want to be doing business with? Who aligns with my core values? Looking behind the curtain, how did they act in this? Did they treat their employees right? Did they treat their customers right? Do I feel like they made the right choice in this pandemic? Did they stay open until the last minute and put lives at risk? Did they close? And, that barometer is different for each person. So I think that is something that we've seen come to the forefront of being authentic and holding true to what your core values are, knowing that you might not align with everyone, but your target audience or your core customers are really going to fall in line with what you're believing, and that those are going to be your strongest customers. I think the other part that we've really been seeing is being specific about what you're doing. So I think we all got those, from every airline I've ever flown on. I got lots of email messages saying we're taking this seriously, which I'm so glad they're taking it seriously. But what I'm really looking for with a reopening is, how are you keeping me safe? From gyms to yoga studios to airlines to any place that people gather, that's the information that people are looking for to know what's the right choice for them. Are they going to enter your establishment? And if so, what's expected of them? Do they need to wear a mask? Is their temperature going to be taken? What experiences are going to be the same and which experiences are going to change? Not saying that change is a bad thing, but really giving people an idea of what you expect of them and being specific in your communications. But on the flip side, you don't want to be so specific that you lose them. So that need to be concise is still there. That hasn't changed. It's probably gotten even worse. It hurts me every time I say that, but attention spans are really short. But I've seen some gyms in our local Tampa Bay area have done something that I think is really smart. They're shooting a quick video with someone explaining the changes, and they're also posting the text version of it. So knowing that people learn and consume information differently, there's going to be a segment of the population who watches the video and learns that way. There's going to be some people who don't want to watch that video or listen to the audio and just want to read the text version or skim it. So knowing that people understand information differently, consume it differently, and take forward that knowledge, trying to be intentional about how you're communicating, whether that's video, written word, audio, maybe it's all of the above, depending on who your audience is.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you brought up a word a couple minutes ago, and then you illustrated it with the gym example. But it's setting expectations, right? And I think that applies both internally and externally. So when it comes to setting expectations, what should your goal be? And if you could address it both on the internal standpoint as well as the external standpoint, that would be great, because that truly that's the foundation, right?
Right. And the important part is delivering on those expectations. So if you're setting an expectation, but your team isn't following through, or you're letting some bad behavior slide internally, it's going to create this conflict of, do I believe what this organization is saying? Do I believe they're keeping me safe? Do I believe that they're upholding their end of the bargain? And if there is conflict there, a lot of customers are just going to opt out. They're not going to choose to support you. They're not going to be a part of it. And On the employee side, that's true too. If they lose confidence in you as a leader and you as a business, which could lead to turnover as the economy recovers.
Yeah, I mean, and this gets back to the integrated part, right? It all has to work together to be effective. Because if one spoke on that wheel isn't operating like it should, it's just going to collapse. So.
Absolutely. It all plays together.
Well, look, thank you so much. I know we're about out of time. I want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart for being the first of our experts as part of this strategic chat series. I always love talking to you, and I look forward to many more of these discussions because we do have a lot to talk about. We want to keep these short and impactful for everybody, but we will certainly be back to chat with you again, Missy. And thanks to everybody for tuning in and spending just a few minutes with us. Make sure you head over to tcstrategic.com for additional strategic chats as we tape them, as we film them and create them, as well as additional content, even sign up for our weekly newsletter. So thank you so much, Missy, and thank you, everybody, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.